torque converters and power glides are made for taxi cabs, and big block Chevys are made for dually crew cabs.
Welcome back to the race shop.
Okay, we're back now, and we're moving on to the next story.
We've killed Chinese spy bots.
Yeah, the damn fruit fly here, we swear, is from China to spy on us. But that's another story. So moving on. So tell us the
So we get through the 2000s, and so I go through a period. I leave Al Hartley's stuff in 2006 because drag racing wasn't fun. And I go to work doing some stock car stuff. I had a history working on a Winston West stock car for a friend. I like all forms of racing. I mean, racing is racing. I don't care if we're racing shop on carts, I'll race a shop on cart. But at the end of the day, drag racing is still the go-to. And through the stock car thing, I'm friends with an individual, Tim Schnell Automotive out of Portland. And he has an individual who he's friends with, who as a customer, his name is Dave Bainey. And he says, hey, one of my customers, this guy wants to go drag racing, and he's thinking about doing something nostalgia style. I hadn't drag raced. I would kind of needed to take a break, kind of cleanse the palate, so to speak. This was 2 years doing the stock car stuff with Chris Evans. And he says, would you be interested? I go, yeah, nostalgia, absolutely. And so in 2007, I meet Dave Bainey at the oldies but goodies at Woodburn Dragstrip.
And it changed your life.
And that ultimately changed. It did. It took a predetermined path that I was not aware of and made me go a different direction. And it started a relationship with the guy I call my big brother. This individual was a absolutely awesome individual. Very, very, very successful in his life. Had two daughters. We had a lot of similarity. He was born 6 years before me, so he was like a big brother.
Wow, he's younger than you.
No, before me. He was born in
before you.
59.
Sorry,
He was born in
old,
59.
sorry.
Yeah. He was
Mine's
6 years
double
ahead of me
anyways.
before me. Anyways, but so we go to Woodburn Dragstrip, and there's two funny cars that are running there. Bernie Rugg with the Rug Rat, the 57 Chevy, which Mike Sharpelow now has. And John, what's his name? He had a 55 Chevy. John not Knox.
No. And he rolled it in the burnout, that guy?
I don't know about rolling it in the burnout, but anyways, when we saw the car, I don't remember. Anyways,
Crap.
Dave saw that. He goes, I've always liked funny cars. We talked about PIR. He says, I'd love to do a funny car. I go, I'm in. Let's do a nostalgia funny car. And he says, so let's try and find something. So I'm still I was still communicating kind of regularly with my buddy Ronnie Orr, who I kind of grew up with in the funny car stuff in the late 70s, early 80s. And he said, hey, Dad's old car is for sale in Canada. It's on Racing Junk. And so I look at it, and we see two things, which the most distinctive thing that we see in these pictures is the wheelie bars that Ronnie Orr and I built for that car in 1980. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I knew the life of this car. It went from Roger Orr to Clint Thompson, from Clint Thompson to Greg Cork, from Greg Cork to a guy down in Coos Bay, put a small block Chevy, sold it to a guy in Red Deer, Alberta. And this car never went faster than 7 seconds. So it had a pretty easy life. And I told Dave, I said, I know this funny car. And I said, this is cool. We need to think about getting this car. And so Dave makes the arrangements. We purchase the car. It's turnkey. It's got a blown big block Chevrolet with a Power Glide transmission in it and a 23T Roadster body on it. The car shows up, and we start working on it, and sure enough, there's Roger. Roger had the Spider. If you go back and look at it, I don't know if you can Google an image. I have it, but he had this huge Spider on the hood of the car because it was a Monza Spider. So anyway, so we get this, and initially we just run it as the big block Chevrolet with a Power Glide, and I go out and I get my license in it, and I find out, that torque converters and power glides are made for taxi cabs, and big block Chevys are made for dually crew cabs.
Right. They're so damn hard to work on.
Oh God! If
horrible.
you cannot, and so what ended up happening is Dave and I for those of you, and I don't know if you, because you were from Roseburg, but Horst Mager had a restaurant called the Tiki, the Kontiki Room.
Where was this at?
At Lloyd Center.
Okay.
Mid to late 60s.
And
that's where I got hooked into the whole tiki culture, mid-century modern, as a 4-year-old boy walking into this thing with this exotic music playing and torches actually inside a building burning, tiki torches.
Cool.
It was so, I'm just like, this is really cool. It beats the hell out of the National Geographic and the lamp that Grandma has,
Yeah.
So that started my love affair with mid-century and tiki, and Baney had the same.
And he was open to use your idea.
Well, he remembered it because he grew up in Oregon City, and he goes, I remember that place. So we came up with Tiki Warrior, and I had done a drawing of what I always wanted to have my funny car, Tiki and the Warriors.
Well, let's show that car.
So we create the Tiki Warrior. You're probably gonna have to go down like 13. Yeah, there. That's the winner's circle shot right there.
All right, we'll skip ahead.
So that's skipping ahead. That is that car that that was built by Jack Slavic, 1979, 1980. Roger Orr. It had a 426 in it. So we started out with Schnell Automotive with the big block Chevrolet.
Oh, the big block. Okay, and then it goes
But and then we go down to Bakersfield, 2009. We have a new Century in it. Break it on it. Jacks it pulls the stud out of the number 7 intake rocker stand out of the port. We're done.
Yeah.
I'd just done a burnout, and we didn't have any spare parts. And Dave was really frustrated because we have the budget to have 4 of everything.
Right.
And we're showing up, and everything's kind of it's kind of an off-breed kind of thing down there. This was the first year for 7.0 Pro in Heritage Series.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We were running Exhibition, and it was pretty frustrating because this didn't happen. And so we come back. We start the Northwest Double B Funny Car Association.
You were part of beginning that. I didn't know that.
That was my idea.
I'll be damned. I didn't know that.
I reached out to Randy because I took the car to Randy Parker, who my brother.
One episode before you.
One episode before me. He's and Randy's like 2 years ahead of me, so it makes sense.
He is such a smart guy.
Randy's a great guy. We got a lot of we're brothers. Anyways, take the car to Randy and have Randy fix a few things so we can get the body where we want. I can fit in the car, do a roll cage thing. And then when we break the Chevrolet and Dave's done, and this is in October of 2009 at the reunion in 7.0 Pro.
Yeah, reunion. That's the Hot Rod reunion down in Bakersfield.
Correct.
It's a really big deal.
And we had went down in March and struggled, but March was when Hot Wheels Mattel came to us and made a Hot Wheel of the car.
Unbelievable.
So I didn't bring the Hot Wheel. But anyways,
didn't you?
so it's not the first time I screwed something up. So we come back, we're driving home, and I'm pissed because it's the reunion and Bakersfield. I'm all about this incredible history.
There isn't much more of a historic, nostalgic place in Bakersfield.
None. I will put that track against any track in the entire United States.
Incredible.
That track has had every famous drag racer in the world go down it.
Absolutely.
Every famous drag racer.
Absolutely.
From Tony Waters in 1959, one of the very first U.S. Fuel and Gas Championships, all the way up to right now with some of our top fuel and nitro funny car stars. Everybody has gone down that track.
Been down it a bunch of times.
Well, I'm talking in their big show stuff. They go and test there.
They do.
Alexis runs test runs there all the time.
I was there in '92 with the big show testing. Yeah. That's where I kind of got whetted my appetite on what Bakersfield was. It's unbelievable.
And you
could start your damn race car after 5 o'clock at night. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but at Woodburn, there's a pretty strict curfew. If you start your car up, you're going to have people up your arse.
Well, the only thing
quickly.
you piss off are the oranges and the raisins around you. But at the end of the day,
but something out there has its own unique odor.
Well, that's that thing that's at the other end of the track. And those little Chinese bots that are spying on us. There's like a bajillion. It's all of China down there.
Oh
those fly things. But
anyway,
I am very blessed to say that I had the opportunity to go down the original Bakersfield surface that was back to, because they've now resurfaced it. It's all concrete.
Right. It's
Bowser's.
A nice track.
It's a nice smooth track. Anyways, We come back, and I'm frustrated, and I tell Dave, I want a clutch in this car, I want a Lenco, and I want a Chrysler.
Right.
And so,
The way God meant for it to be.
well, it's funny because if Dave was here, and Gregg Howland, my best friend plumber, who I race with in the association, Gregg would say, I tell everybody that in January of 2010 we found Jesus.
Yeah, there you go.
So
There you go.
Randy Parker said, hey, Walt Austin's got this combination. So Randy got the parts and pieces for a motor, and we ended up buying another block. We got a couple sets of heads from Randy and Flansburgh. Took the car up there, redid it for the bell housing, the clutch, like a true alcohol funny car God intended it to be. With
Absolutely.
pedal clutch, all of that stuff. And so now we're at this point, well, the Schnells had left because they didn't want to have anything to do with that. And it's just Dave and I, and it's like, Dave, I've got experience with this. We can run it. We'll find a couple of guys. He goes, we need a team. We really need a team. And I go, yeah, I know you're right. We got to do that. So I called Norm Christians. Well, first I called my buddy Brett. I called Norm Christians, and I say, hey, do you have Brett Davis's number?
Oh, yeah.
Because Brett Davis,
He's a good guy.
you know, I knew Brett from the A-Fuel days because Brett worked on Mitch Meyer's car.
That's right.
That ultimately got a championship with Steve Boggs.
2004.
Correct.
Yep.
And Brett and I, you know, kindred, and he lived in Canby. And it's like, I called Norm. I said, Norm, I need somebody. Norm was working on Ashwell stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes, here's Brett's number. He says, I don't know. He's kind of, he might not. And so I called Brett, and Brett goes, I don't think so. And so I'm thinking to myself, I know Guy Mitchell. I'm friends with Guy Mitchell. And so I go to Guy's shop at Paola's there, at Roy Paola's place. And I'm talking to Guy.
I got a Guy Mitchell story for you when you're done.
Oh, there's lots of Guy Mitchell stories.
I got a good one for you. Keep going.
And so I'm talking to Guy about this. He goes, yeah, I'm hearing this. And there was a guy that had worked on Brian Houck's car that was leaving Brian, that we thought maybe we might get this guy, blah, 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 from Eugene. But it's like, yeah. And Guy says, I know a really good guy that would do it, but he says he doesn't want to drag race anymore. And I'm not kidding you. This is where Jesus makes prayers come true, right, Brett? That's what Brett says. And prayer does work. Scott Davis comes walking through the door at that time. Yeah. Scott worked with Guy Mitchell. Brett Davis worked with Guy Mitchell. And Dave Loney worked with Guy Mitchell on Dan McGlone stuff.
I remember Dan's stuff. I got a great Dan McGlone story to tell you,
there's
too.
a lot of great Dan McGlone stories.
It's
but
hilarious.
anyways, so Scott comes walking in, and we're talking about this, and he goes, yeah, I don't know if I'm done with drag racing. I'm done with blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and Guy says, yeah, I want to give this a thought. And I told Scott, I said, listen, just come to the shop, just you and I with Dave. We'll hang out, we'll drink. He goes, I don't drink. Scott really doesn't. He drinks Captain and Coke, or, private select. But anyways, that's a whole nother story now. So Scott comes by. And we are in the middle of restoring the Jungle Jim funny car because Dave Baney in 2009 in the summer, or 2000 spring, he says, hey, if you ever know of a historic funny car, I'd like to get one. And I go, well, these Jungle Jim cars are coming up for sale at this Icons of Speed and Style auction down. This was the Ralph Whitworth collection that was for sale. Dave buys both of them.
Wow,
he was going to go down and buy one. He didn't take me because he knew I'd spend all of his money, but he kind of wishes I would, because we would have got a lot of good deals at that time. And this was during 2008, 2009 economic crash. Anyways, we get both the Jungle cars back, and we're doing the restoration because we got to get the 1969 Claire Sanders car, which won the Winter Nationals. Very first funny car eliminator. I don't care what anybody says. First year the funny car had its own class. Claire won that for Jungle. That car was being recognized at the 2010 Winter Nationals.
So we got a picture of that car, right?
Correct. That you'll see that.
All right.
So that's the Tiki Warrior. That's the team. We can talk about that.
Before we move off Tiki, I've never been into the WB funny cars, but I watched you guys year after year as I'm running my fuel car. What caught my attention with that was, I'm not speaking to any specific WB car, but in general, most, not all, most of the WB cars you could see were on a budget and had used parts, tired parts, making it work best they could. I've been there. I totally get it. That thing was absolutely immaculate and had the best of the best of the best.
Thank you.
It's got to be the best funded WB car I've ever seen. It's unbelievable how nice that thing was.
Well, we had the good fortune of running a nostalgia an alcohol funny car. That was an all intent other than the 1471. That was a screw blower motor.
No, I'll be damned.
We had it was a 10-2 motor. I mean, it had everything. You literally could have put a screw supercharger on it, and we probably within a few runs we would have been running 60s.
Yeah,
It had everything there to do that.
It was
but
immaculate.
the thing is, and the people don't understand. And in meeting Dave and hanging out with him, you never would have known it. But we had that car, and we could have had the budget of a big show top fuel car.
That's crazy.
He had that kind of money, but it was all about having fun and enjoying it. And Dave and I
those are two different things.
Dave and I had when it stopped being fun. This was the agreement that Dave and I had. We had two agreements in 2007. He would not run the Tiki Warrior without me, and I would not run the Tiki Warrior without him. If either one of us had to separate, the car was done. And we honored that with his passing.
And that's what happened when he passed, yeah.
Correct. But the other thing is, he said, Ron, he says, I don't know how long I'm going to do this, but I'm going to give us the budget to do it. He says, well, he says, I'm going to set aside $300,000 a year to start with, or whatever. We're some
nuts.
numbers,
That's
whatever,
nuts.
whatever it needs, because we need. He wants to go out, he wants to win, but he wants to go out and he wants to be top shelf, and we did that.
Yeah, you did.
And people don't understand that, or people don't realize that. But he says, Ron, if it stops being fun, because I talked about my time with Hartley, and it's like it became work.
Oh,
I didn't
God,
like
yes.
it.
And that
He
can
goes,
happen easily.
if we're not having fun, we shouldn't be doing this.
What's the point? It's too
And
much work.
Dave Bainey, an incredibly successful businessman, incredibly successful to the tune of lots of money. I don't want to share
money,
it.
big money.
money. During the day, he was to get that big money. You got all these balls in the air. You're juggling all these balls. You're trying to keep it going, keep the machine going, because you have to. At that point, you have to keep it going.
Right.
This was vacation.
Yeah.
And he literally,
Yeah.
people, I wish everybody could have known the Dave Bainey that I knew, that Scott Davis knew, that Brett Davis knew, that Dave Loney knew, that Fred knew. Dave Bainey, when we were there, was a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah, that's cool.
We told fart jokes. We told inappropriate stuff. We acted like 14-year-old boys in the locker room.
That's
and
funny.
but it was his chance to vent
Absolutely.
and to just enjoy life. And he
gotta be able to do that.
And Dave Bainey had this incredible ability to just step back and let us do what we needed to do, give us the tools we needed to have, and just enjoy it. He found great pleasure and happiness in just seeing us do what we did.
That's really cool.
And
That's really cool.
if any of you people ever find an individual in your life that does that and allows you to do things, whether it's drag racing or golfing or whatever you do, embrace that person, embrace that moment, because that is true happiness. We were happy.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, even when the car when I screwed up or when something didn't go right, we still would come back. We'd smoke cigars and we'd drink and we'd have a good time.
It's all true. It's awesome. Great
And you
job.
saw
Great
those
story.
parties that we had.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my Dan McClone story.
Yes.
So Dan's a great guy. He had a very competitive alcohol funny car in the early mid 90s ish.
Mid to late 90s.
Okay, so at the time it was before I got my license in '96. So I'm helping Parkers with their top alcohol funny car.
Yeah.
We're up in Seattle.
Yeah.
It was a regional, and I know that because we were parked in the pro pits. Because if it's a national event, you kick down to the crappy gravel below.
Right.
So we're up top on the asphalt, thinking we're all that in a sack of chips, right?
Oh yeah.
So we got done running, and for last qualifying lap, I believe it was, and I walked off to the bathroom, and I had to walk by their pit area. They just got done running too. They're all sitting in chairs around the car, and the body's down. And I knew they just ran the car, and they made a good run. And I was just, what are you doing? We've got this thing, we're tearing all apart servicing. So I said, why aren't you guys working on the thing? And Dan said, because we're afraid we might find a problem. So,
That's a Dan Guy Mitchell deal.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, that'll solve that problem.
Which
right there.
guy was his crew chief? Oh yeah. I mean, one of the funny Dan McGlone stories that I have been told through Brett and Scott, but most Brett likes to share this story, and brother, let me share it. It's just too good not to share it. It involves Mitch Myers. Mitch bought the funny car that was called Basketball. That was a car that shook. It never went down the track straight. It was horrible. It went to Terry Delaverge. Terry Delaverge panned it off to Terry, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. He pawned it off to Dan. Dan pawned it off to Mitch. And Mitch is getting ready to make his run. McGlone's in the water right behind him. and Mitch, trying to save it, crashes it. Holy crap.
funny.
And Brett says, all we could turn around, he goes, God damn it, he hasn't paid me for that yet.
That's why you don't sell race cars on credit, right? That's funny. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Okay, so my story for Guy Mitchell.
Yeah.
Okay, so Keith McCurdy has worked on my car forever.
Right.
His father, John McCurdy, and his stepdad, Guy Mitchell.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 1997, I think, and it's my first hits in that Pro Mod that Dave Henderson owned.
Yep.
I would not be anywhere in this sport if it weren't for Dave Henderson.
Yeah.
When I got the A-Fuel car and was having some minor modicum of success, I contacted him to try to get him to come out. Let me treat you like a king, because I wouldn't be with that.
Yeah.
It was done. It was over, and it just broke my heart. Anyway, so Dave is a great guy. So please understand, he's wonderful. I wouldn't be here without Dave Henderson. But Dave had a challenge physically. Dave, I love you. He had one eye that went that way and one that went that way, and you never knew which one to look at. So I do the burnout, and I back up. And I've never driven a Pro Mod before. I don't know shit from Shinola. I barely know which end of the car goes down the track first. And the motor is way up here. And I'm in a Pro Mod. You're not in the middle. You're off to the normal left-hand driver's seat.
Yep.
So in my vision, I've got the motor here. Can't see anything. And then he takes a tachometer and puts it right here. Now, you only got about a quarter inch of movement either way when you're belted in.
Right.
I couldn't see with that tachometer at all. So he wants me to leave 4,200 RPM, not 43, 44, and bless God, I got it there. The problem was when he backed me up, I'm doing everything he says. So I back up and pull forward, take the light, get 42 swap feet, and the thing rocks back on the rear wheels, front end in the air, and heads straight for the wall. And I stayed with it as long as I felt I could. And then it was obvious the front tires are not on the ground, and I've got them turned a little bit as rudders, but I'm not going to lock my wrist because they're going to come on the ground eventually, right? And so I had to lift the tires at the ground, go chirp, and it pulls me back into the middle groove, and I coast on down. We tow the car back, and Dave's in the pits, and he goes, "Why the hell did you lift?" And I go, "Because I was going to hit the wall." Said, "I figured you'd want your car back. I thought you'd be proud of me." He was pissed, and I lifted.
Right.
I was so discouraged. I thought he'd be proud of me that I didn't trip his hot rod, and he's unhappy with me. I just sucked the wind out of me. So I'm walking to the bathroom. I hadn't sent 10 words to Guy Mitchell my whole life. So I'm walking to the bathroom, and he gets nose to nose with me, and how somebody can, in your personal space,
Right.
And he goes, the only words he ever said to me, he goes, "You ought not to have the blind guy line you up."
That
it was
is
pointed
Guy
at the
Mitchell.
wall. So I learned after that, no matter what Dave said, go left, right, whatever, I just watched where I was. It's geometry 101. Parallel's good, perpendicular's bad. So I lined myself up, and it worked way better. He never knew that I wasn't doing a thing he said.
Oh, well, and you talk about a blind guy. So, and maybe, I don't know if Randy talked about it in the prior, in the other one, but Jeff Dykes, who Randy helped, build that Datsun for Jeff Dykes in the Double B. Randy drove it for that first year, and Jeff Dykes is legally blind. He was Jeff Dykes. Dykes is.
Now, this is the photo op.
The photo op car.
That Swinford ended up in.
That Swinford ended up driving. And all I'm thinking, the joke we all had was, who in their right mind puts a blind guy backing the car up from the back like he can see where the car needs to go?
He has no idea.
But
oh my God,
we would just bust his chops mercilessly. So, anyways, Tiki car. So we go.
We gotta
go to the number 4. Number 4, right next to that image right there. So,
okay, let me blow this up.
So if we can blow that up, you see me in the black T-shirt. To my immediate right is my crew chief, the witch doctor Scott Davis.
There he is.
Who gave me a car. He never put an apple in my mouth, which was a good thing, and you know what I'm talking about. To my immediate left under my arm is my big sister, Jungle Pam Hardy.
Okay.
Sally Bainey is in the other white T-shirt. Behind her with the hat smiling is Dave Bainey, our beloved brother. That's Claire Sanders. God rest his soul. Claire just passed about 2 months ago.
That's so sad. God,
Claire, and then his crew chief, Leroy, as we love to call him, Larry Petrich. So in 2010, we take the jungle car down, my buddy and I, Gregg Hallen, we take it down to Pomona to be honored as one of the 10 most significant cars in Winter National history,
Wow.
which is what it was because it won the 1969 Winter Nationals with Claire driving. Gregg Hallen and I, we get there, we take and we put it in the corral there with the other cars on display.
Yep. Been there.
You know, do all of that stuff. Randy Parker had done some of the mechanical work on the chassis and some tin work, some things to get it kind of tidied up. We had an engine already built for it. Scott did not go down with that car in 2010. He was, because literally Pomona, February, Scott, January. So he was still fairly new, relatively fresh. So I take it down with Dave. It was nothing other than I like to call it a dog and pony show. It's not, but it was a wonderful time. Met some Larry Reyes, the driver of the Hawaiian. Wonderful times. Heard some incredible old stories that some of them we should not repeat. But anyways, Gregg and I, we go to the DoubleTree, we check in, we get our stuff, and then we come back to the track. And I just want to go back to the track. And this is on Wednesday.
Wow.
And Larry Petrich was with Tiny. What was his name? He was the lifelong crew chief on the Stone Woods and Cook car.
Oh, wow.
Larry Petrich was the
back.
crew chief on the 1965 A-Gas black car that Ray Cook drove that won the U.S. Nationals.
That's unbelievable that you
And
know
then
all this
Larry
crap.
Petrich went from that to Don Schumacher.
Wow.
Then Larry Petrich left Schumacher, and after Pomona, he was the crew chief on the Jungle car. And we're sitting there, Tiny Roberts. So Plummer and I were looking at the twin-engine car called the Thing that Jack Christman drove, a famous car. We're looking at this thing, and Tiny, which was funny because Tiny was 6'7" and weighed 400 pounds, huge guy. Him and Larry are looking at this. And he goes, "Hey, Petrich, did you see the Novas here?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, that blue thing. Yeah, I saw that, but they fucked it up." And I go, "Blue car, you talking about the jungle car?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Well, we restored it." "Well, let me show you what you fucked up, kid."
Wow.
And it's like, and Hal and Plum and I were like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, what do you
So we
think
go
of me
over-
so far?
And all it was just one simple thing. It was just the doghouse. The doghouse was a later doghouse in the tin, because it still had the original body, original tin, original chassis.
Okay, doghouse.
That's what covered the injector on the dash.
That's right. It goes into the body to cover the injector. Okay, go ahead.
But Larry Petrich lived with this car, and he goes, "It's looking pretty good." Larry Petrich became, at that point in time, my illegitimate father.
Oh, that's cool.
And we have an incredible relationship. So Gregg Hallen and I,
Isn't it?
if we go back to that picture to Atco, we went back. I won the race. This was the first win for the Tiki car with the Chrysler with Scott and I and the Baneys. We go back to Atco for the summer funny car, whatever. It was a deal that Berserko Bob and Nick Bonifante Sr. put together at Atco Raceway.
Jeez.
And it was this brilliant idea. I mean, it was kind of an interesting idea, $20 a carload.
Oh, my
Just
God.
get $20, get in and watch. And there was a
Wow.
bunch of cars that showed up. Crazy Jay Crimmins, U.S. Mail. All of these cars were there, the Nitro cars. And I'm starting to do my burnout and my stuff. And what was really funny is this starts my relationship with Pam, because in Gregg Hallen's trailer, we had not gotten our trailer that we hauled the Tiki car with, our toter trailer. So we put Gregg Hallen's funny car, which was the Zeus Corvette, and my car, the Tiki car, and the Claire Sanders Jungle Claire car, and we drag it 4,100 miles to Atco, New Jersey.
I can't even fathom the diesel bill for that.
It didn't matter because Dave wanted to do that. 4 days we do it, and we stop in Chicago to put Petrich up on the side of the highway, and it's just stories, Larry Petrich stories. We would have to have 3 more episodes of this show because he was with he was with Don Schumacher when he left this, went back to Schumacher's deal, and he had the car that Broadway Freddie DeNome stole.
Oh, geez.
And it's a great story. But anyways,
Tell me what the hell this is.
so a guy by the name of Eddie Buck, a friend of mine, lives in St. Louis, Missouri, has Eureka sign and display, he was big into the jungle craze as well, and he comes up with this trophy.
So that is a trophy.
That is a trophy. That is
massive.
That is a hand-carved image of Jungle and Pam that was basically recreated off of the artwork that was done on the Vega.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
And Eddie did an incredible job on that. What you can't really see is there's a little acrylic box at the bottom above where it says Jungle Jim, and there was 2 beta fish in that. And I won that trophy. It's the only trophy that I've ever heard in drag racing that came with 2 fish.
Yeah.
So, and we affectionately named the fish Larry and Claire. It was perfect. But that started a great relationship. It was really funny. Pam was there because Pam lives about 40 minutes away. Her and Bill Hodgson, they live in Westchester.
Right.
Goshen Beverage Supply.
Goshen Beverage.
Little plug. Anyways, Pam was there, and I met Pam in 1974 at PIR when she was with Jungle. I was a kid, 9 years old.
She's not going to remember that, but you do.
She doesn't. I mean, she met millions of people.
Of course.
But trust me.
I bet you remembered.
At that point in time, up to 1974, it was just cars for this guy. And then I turn the corner and I see Pam.
Let me tell you why he remembers Pam.
And it's like, oh, now I see what this does. I see how this all works.
Let me show you why he remembers Pam. So Jungle Jim had a Fuel Funny car back in the day where it was a job where they made money by match racing. It was very limited NHRA racing, and a lot, day after day after day, traveling to match race. They made a lot of money doing. That's how they made their living.
1976, there was only 6 national events.
Yeah, it's a different world. So they match race, and then he found this young gal, and this is Jungle Pam back in the day.
Yeah.
And so there's never been any controversy over what they were selling and marketing, and she was damn good at it. I mean.
Well, what was really interesting is that there's a lot of images. Like if you take, I don't know if you can see, click on the image of the Vega, the blue Vega right there. I don't know. So she always joked about she had a 0 inseam pair of shorts.
Yes, she did.
But she literally one thing, and I'm gonna take a quick aside and give a little bit of props to Brianna Marshall, because Brianna Marshall works her ass off on that car.
She does.
She's
awesome.
She's not a pretty face.
She's a beautiful woman, but she works her ass off too. Yeah.
Pam did the same thing. Mm-hmm. Pam would do whatever it took to get the car. And she was actually, because back then they ran water in the engines. They were cast iron blocks, cast aluminum heads, so they would run water in it. So they're looking for leaks, whether it's water, fuel, oil. She had a real purpose, not just out there looking beautiful. And it was really
Although
funny.
She nailed that too.
Oh, yeah. She had no problem doing that. But if you go back and watch the movie American Nitro, find American Nitro, it's a quintessential pivotal movie right next to The Godfather. Francis Ford Coppola needs to take some cue from American Nitro. But I do love... Anyways, she would get shitty with Jungle. She'd be backing him up. He wouldn't be doing it. She'd be like, you do this. So Pam's back at Atco, New Jersey, and it's like, it's been my lifelong goal. I've got a funny car. I'm driving a funny car.
So now we're mid-2000s.
2010.
Okay.
Atco, New Jersey.
Right.
Pam's back there, and it's like, God, if I could get Pam to back me up, my life would be complete. I would be done. Claire Sanders hears about this, and Claire knows Pam. So Claire asked Pam, and she goes, well, I just wore my flip-flops. I don't have any shoes. We find a kid there who was kind of hanging out with us.
And flip-flops on the Dragstrip are not allowed for very good reasons.
It don't work.
No.
It don't work for a number of reasons. This kid just happens to have a pair of Converses that fit Pam.
I'll be damned.
And Pam says, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Wow.
So they are all arranging
That is really
this, and
cool.
I'm working on the car because it's just myself and Scott. The car's towed into the lanes. I'm getting my suit on to get ready to make a run. And Pam comes up, and I go, yeah, here's Pam. And I start crying.
Yeah.
It's like, I have finally reached it.
Yeah.
Pam is backing me up.
That's a really cool deal.
Scott looks at Beatty. He goes, shit, we just lost our driver.
Oh, my
well,
God.
I go out. We literally go out. I do a monster burnout, back up. And Pam says, and I go down there, and she turns around, and she looks at Dave, and she looks at Scott, and she goes, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? And he goes, he knows what to do. He'll come back just fine. And she goes, I ain't running all the way out there. Not this day.
No.
So she met me at about 150 foot.
Yes.
Being the consummate professional. And I see her, and I stop the car, and she looks at me, and she goes, you watch me. And I go, uh-huh.
Not a problem.
Backed up,
Wow.
staged the car against Rocky Perone, one of my great dear friends, Rocky Perone, Screaming Eagle, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. and I beat him.
Wow.
And we run a 6:56.
Wow.
At 212 miles, something like that.
That's awesome.
And we just smoke it down there. The place erupts. Pam's out there backing up. Big burnout. Low ET of all the cars with the exception of one nitro car. But we hauled ass.
That's cool.
Those
are awesome stories.
Go back to run the final. It starts to rain.
Oh.
So we towed 4,000 miles and made one run. But it didn't matter to us because we come back with the trophy and we start this legend of this green car from the West Coast and this blue car from the West Coast coming out and beating up on the East Coast guys.
That is so cool. What a story.
And that starts my relationship with Jungle Pam Hardy and Bill Hodgson.
Okay.
Which to this day I talked with Billy this morning.
Yeah, I heard, I want to say from Garrett that you're talking to her consistently. I heard like once a week, but you're talking to her all the time.
All the time. We go back every year for Christmas. Bill Hodgson, he's got a repair shop just outside of Westchester there. And Billy is, we're just like, we are kindred spirits. And he has a Christmas party at his place. He knows most everybody in Goshen and Westchester. He's been having this Christmas party for like 40 years.
Wow.
And we go back. Plummer and I went back in 2010. Yes, 2010. We go back for this Christmas party and we surprise Billy. And it was and we are known as these crazy guys from the West Coast that come out there and they love us.
Yeah, what a shock.
Great. So that's Pam.
All right,
so then the next picture, let's go to the next picture. I really none of my other than Dave Baney, none of my life would be where it's at without those guys.
All right.
So I'm gonna tell you a little quick story about the hats later on, but those are my brothers.
Yep.
So there's me on the left, that's Dave Loney, Brett Davis, Scott Davis, and then Dave Baney.
Okay, wait.
And
Davis, are they related at all?
yes. Yeah. And what was really funny for like almost 8 months of the first, so Scott came on, and then it's like, we need a couple of guys. I really want my brother and this other guy to come. And Dave was like, Dave knew the chemistry. You need to have chemistry. And we go, and literally by the first weekend, he realized he's got magic with the four of us.
That's cool.
And
that's really hard to produce.
It was incredible, and it was so funny, in the movie, not Bachelor Party, that's a way back one. What's the Hangover? Yeah. The Hangover.
Good show.
With Zach Galifianakis up on the roof, and he starts singing the song, and I go, so initially there was one in my wolf pack, and then in 2007 I added another to my wolf pack. That was Dave Baney, and then the wolf pack became four more with Brett, Scott, and Dave, and then I go, you're the four best friends any driver could ever have singing that song. It just started that.
That's awesome.
But I wouldn't be where I'm at without those guys.
That's awesome. Very cool. It's awesome to honor them because they all work their asses off.
Yes.
It's a lot of work.
So here is your favorite T-shirt I'm wearing in this next picture.
Here it is.
My favorite
T-shirt. What the hell? Dragsters suck.
Dragsters suck.
Wow, we were in better shape in those days.
Yeah. That was 2011.
Wow.
At Mission, BC.
I can tell that's Mission.
Yep. Before they cut the trees down. So that's Gregg Howland.
Those trees are gone?
Yeah.
Shit.
Oh, yeah. It's really weird. You look at it. It's like.
I've been up there in years,
It's like somebody gave Mission a Brazilian. It's not the 1970s anymore, Dad.
I crashed my Pro Mod up there, right?
Yeah, I do. We talked about that in the
my
truck
God.
ride. So anyways,
all right, here we go.
There it is. That blue Corvette,
that's a gorgeous
Zeus Corvette.
Gorgeous picture.
So this is 2016 50th anniversary of the funny car. Steve Gibbs reached out to me because he knew what we'd done from the Heritage Series. He says, I really need a couple of you guys to come and show what funny cars used to be like.
Wow.
And when we made this run, we were just ahead of the Nitro cars.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. I had Jack Beckman, John Force, Robert Height, Ron Capps. They were all standing in the water box watching the two of us put on the show.
That's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
Just so you realize, that cone that you're looking at, that's the 330 cone. And I'm still smoking the tires.
Now, wait, time out. In addition to that, that's your vision right there.
Yeah, vision's overrated.
Which is smoke. See, I can see it. I can about see the driver in this one. Can't see jack shit.
Well, I'm a firm believer that funny cars shouldn't have side windows because I'm lost in the 70s, so to speak. Another thing you need to look at is that the blades are closed like they're partially open like they should be.
Yes.
Everybody thinks that I do these big burnouts and I'm wide open
Oh,
throttle.
dear God, no.
Well, what was really
no.
funny was one time I said, I'm tired of people claiming this.
That's
One of
stupid.
them being Steve Flansburgh, and I can pick on Steve
No
all
way.
I want. So what I did is I pushed record. I would start the computer in the car, the recording process for the race back. And so I go, yep, I'm going to record the burnout. And on that race pack on the dash, it has the shift light. And the shift light was set at 8,200 RPM. And I would just flicker that bulb. And as long as I had that shift light flickering, I knew.
You were okay.
And all you do is, and I never had a stop. I don't do a throttle stop on a burnout.
Yeah.
So I would play with it with my boot, with my foot, and just give it a little bit. And when the tire's starting to stick and you go, yeah, it's just got to stop.
You got to stop.
I also knew that if I made 3 movements with the steering wheel, I needed to stop.
That's all good stuff.
But you drive with your ass. You don't see. Absolutely.
Right. Okay, back up. Steve Flansburgh. They may not know. So Randy Parker married Kim. I don't know what her maiden name was, but she's Kim Parker now.
Kim Flansburgh.
Well, I guess that makes sense.
Here, let me pour you another one.
I thought there may have been something in between there, but I didn't know. Anyway, the point is, Steve is her dad. So when they all go racing, Steve is there, and he does a bunch of work in the car. The cool thing about Steve, I've always wished I could race with my family, and it just crushes my heart that I can't. And I love my dad. He got me started in this, and I have a world of love and respect for my father. But this is not what he wants to do anymore. And my kid's in Florida, so it's me.
Yeah.
It really breaks my heart. All that to say that Steve has come over at any race we're together at, and he will look. It's like he looks in on me, and it's not tune-up stuff, but it's safety stuff. Are you okay? You doing this? Watch that. What the hell are you doing there? And it makes me feel like he's the father that I wish I could have the track that is just looking after you to make sure you're okay and not doing something industrialist, stupid.
Yeah.
He's been awesome. I really love that guy.
And he is, and he's been great. And we had that on our team with Dave's brother, Bob. Bob Bainey was 16. I don't have a picture, unfortunately, of Bob, but Bob is 16 years older than Dave, and he was nicknamed Mother because he worked in the Oak Lodge Fire Department. He was a firefighter, and he had 2 options on his very first day: either go out and wash the truck, and it was like 104 degrees, or go in the kitchen and cook. And he said, "I'll just go in and cook."
Yeah.
So he ended up being the cook for the firehouse for his entire career. So he was known as Mother, and he would dote on people.
I got you.
So Bob came out.
Wow.
This is when Bob. Another thing that Dave really liked about what we were doing was it really brought him and Bob closer together because there's 16 years of difference between Dave and Bob.
Wow.
Bob was out of the house before Dave really knew who Bob was. Okay, so we have Bob in this, and Bob was the deadpan humor guy. I mean, he was just this twisted. He had this twisted sense of firehouse humor, and those of you that work in a firehouse know exactly what I'm talking about.
There's
But
a
the one
brotherhood,
thing-
but a lot of hazing.
One thing that Bob always did, and God bless him, I love him to death for this, was he would help me pack the parachute. I pack the parachutes. I don't want anybody on my car touching the parachutes, only from the standpoint, if something goes wrong, I don't want that on them. It needs to be on me. So we'd get back, I'd pull the cover off the bell housing, and the first thing I'd do is I'd go back and I start doing my shoots. And Bob had put his cigarette down when he was, and he'd walk back and he'd help me. And it was really funny. I said, "Bob, it's okay, I can do this." He goes, "Are you kidding? This is my baby brother's car. I don't want you fucking it up."
Crazy stuff. Oh my
God bless Mother.
Yes, that's awesome.
So
Okay.
here's a little video. You
We're
want to do
going
a
to go to
video?
a video segment now. Hang on to your shorts. So this is Ronaldo showing how to do a burnout.
This is a Les Mayhew video, Les Nitro America. This is at Mission, BC.
That's awesome. That's very cool. All right, in-car camera. This is cool. Wow, that's awesome. Can't see Jack. That's very cool.
But Pee-wee can.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Here we go. Hang on. And plug it. Plug high gear. Oh, there it goes. And shoots. Wow, that's cool. Man, that track brings back memories. Oh my God.
I love Mission. You know,
It's
this
gorgeous.
was the year. This was 7/24/13. This was the first year that I won a Wally, and I carved it in my arm. It was
that's
really
a cool
funny.
deal.
I've got 2 tattoos. I've got some. So I got a tattoo on this arm. This was my first 6-second 200-mile-an-hour run with the car. We had gunned some 6s, but had gunned 199.9, 199, blah blah blah. And the Schnells were like, "That's 200 mile an hour." I go, 199 is kissing your sister.
Yeah.
That's not 200 mile an hour. So as soon as I did it, I carved it in my arm. It's above my Cadillac tattoo, which used to have a picture of my second wife, but I said she got run over by a Cadillac. So then I do but before that, I do this green tattoo.
that's
you
cool.
can see that's a Tiki Warrior.
That's cool.
I always used to joke. I said, when I may have had a few too many corn squeezins, hey, can you help me find my car? Kind of a deal.
There it is.
But Bainey
Oh, my
said,
God, that's
I do this tattoo, and we're building. This was in 2011, and we're building the new car for 2012.
Oh.
And I send this, and I show it to Dave, and he goes, "Well, you do know we're painting the new car blue." Dave Bainey humor. It's like,
hilarious.
dude, you're killing me.
Yeah. So, in addition to all that, you also do fabrication work.
Well, yeah, these were a couple of hot rods that we kind of put together, a little Model A banger roadster, something that would have been very reminiscent what you would have found in the mostly pre-war, and a little bit of the post-war. You know, they would take and unbolt the running boards, unbolt the fenders. The splash aprons are pinched between the body and the frame rails, so the splash aprons would stay.
Just trying to shed weight.
They were back then. All they were trying to do was lose the weight.
Right.
Absolutely,
and it matters,
yeah.
especially if
and
you're
they
not
still
big on horsepower.
and they still counted in the class because they would have to have the headlights and the windshield on.
Headlights were part of the mandate. I'll be damned.
Well, that's the difference between an altered and a street roadster. So if you go back in the rule book and you realize in the street roadster class, it had fenders, headlights, and a windshield.
I'll be damned.
Now
I didn't know that.
they didn't. So you would see these little chopped off windshields and these little motorcycle headlights up to the early '80s, and these little tiny fenders. And then the altereds had none of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be damned. Okay.
Sold
next.
that car. Ended up this one I bought from Bainey. Bainey got this car, the Richcraft Special. It was built by a kid back in Ohio.
That's crazy
Bucky Austin bought it. We saw it when we bought a bunch of when Dave bought a bunch of stuff from Bucky. He wanted to have that for the museum. Got it for the museum. We put it on display. Kind of pushed off into the storage, and I told Dave, I said, I'd really like to have that car. He says, fine, I'll sell it to you. The only car that Dave sold.
Oh, I'll be darned.
I bought it, had it for a little bit. I went through and it had a 365 CAD with 2.2s on it, 39 top loader transmission, quick change rear end.
Wow.
To drive that car, it had a 8-inch channel, so the body was channeled over the frame 8 inches.
Wow.
And then the top was chopped. And only way when I took it to Eagle Field to drive in the drags, I had to do like this so I could see the flag person. Really sketchy car, but I did some work to it, fixed the interior in it, the tin work, all the metal work, put the fuel tank in the back, battery in the back, put a second seat in it so Gwen could go for a ride.
Yeah.
We did some of that stuff. Gwen and I went down to Eagle Field, had a great time with it. And then Bucky found out that, he goes, I want that car back.
Really?
Garrett Bateman, you love this story because Garrett worked for Bucky. We all know Bucky.
Yep. Yeah.
And God bless Buckaroo. Bucky, you are an awesome
He's
person.
been good
I
to
love
me.
you. Bucky's
Very
been a
good.
great person.
Yes.
But Bucky is like, I got to have that car back. I go, what are you going to do with it? He says, I'm just going to sit in a chair and drink beer and look at it because it's too cool not to look at.
But Bucky has the budget to do that, too.
And Bucky goes, I don't know if I want to sell it. He goes, I want to buy it. And I said, I got to go to Eagle Field. I got to run it. He goes, well, and literally, I come back on Monday morning. He called me. He goes, I'm ready to buy the car. And it's like, Bucky, he goes, I'm ready to buy the car. I'm going to give you X, which was more than what we bought. Bucky paid more back to get the car.
Wow.
So Garrett loves it. So one time, when somebody got one over on Bucky, because Bucky usually does better on everybody.
Yes, he does.
And but the big thing was I was really concerned. I told Dave, I said, and Dave goes, dude, you did what you said you wanted to do with it. I don't care if you sell it. Make some money.
That's cool.
So
Well,
I got
that's
Dave's
really
blessing.
cool.
So there are a couple of hot rods.
cool.
We got another one that I've put on hold as I'm building my new funny car.
Okay, here's the 69 Jungle Car.
So this is at Bakersfield. That is one. So in 1969, Jungle Jim had back up a little bit to 68. He crashed a car. It's a Logie chassis car. He crashed his Nova funny car, sent it back to Logie to get rebuilt. His brother Bob had a relationship with the folks at GM, and he was able to get before any public had availability of it, 1969 Chevy 2 Nova.
Really?
And that body, that car that he got, he went straight to Ron Pellegrini. Ron Pellegrini literally coated that car in wax
And pulled
a mold off of it.
I'll be damned.
If you look at the car, you can't see it in these pictures. You can still see the Phillips heads on all of the lenses.
Oh, I'll be damned.
It's incredible. So these cars, so Jungle had this car built. He had a hard time getting it to drive it. Claire Sanders this was at Hollywood, Florida, Miami. Claire was there, and he says, "Hey, would you drive my car? You drive the Limefire car. I want to see how this car goes. What's going on?" Claire had never driven that level of funny car. Their Limefire car was half a second behind it. Okay. And he was in somebody else's car. He was a little apprehensive, as he admitted. He said, so he just rolled his foot into the throttle. This has a big block Chevrolet, and at the time it had a Turbo 400 transmission.
I'll be damned.
But the Turbo 400 transmissions, the torque converters were a single piece of steel, and they would balloon. Coleman and Taylor started making adapters and putting torque flights because factory torque flight torque converters were double walled.
Right.
So they would balloon.
Right.
So anyways, this Jungle says, you know what? I'm having a new car built as it is. Let's start a team.
Oh,
so they took this car back. It went to Chicago. It got painted by a guy named Bogey, did some lettering. And they drug this car and the new one to Irwindale to do a shakedown prior to Pomona, which was what the case was.
Crazy.
This is 1969.
So, okay, what catches my attention is there's no bird catcher, buzzer catcher, any kind of a injector scoop.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a 4-port. That's a tall 4-port Hilborn injector. 4-port upright, as they like to call it.
And where's the exhaust? Where's the headers?
So this car had a couple different versions of headers on it, and that's a great story. It had what we call weed burners. They just went straight out.
Right.
Now, in 1969, some of the first Zoomies showed up was on Mickey Thompson's car. And that's where they turned the headers up.
Right.
Roland Leong immediately copied that with the Hawaiian. And they built a set of Zoomie headers for this car. And between the Zoomie headers and a set of wheels and tires that they borrowed from Roland, because Jungle wouldn't give them the money to buy new tires, they went 200 mile an hour with this car.
That's crazy.
This car with Larry Petrich tuning it, Claire driving it, over a 6-month period had an 89% win ratio.
Jesus,
second only in 1969 to Danny and Gaius in the Mickey Thompson Mustang.
That's nuts. Okay, briefly, just folks watching may not have some of the drag racing background we do. This stuff makes sense to me, but I want to make sure everybody's on board. This header deal from what you call the weed burners points straight out to what we have now in the Zoomies, there's massive amount of science and technology in how those are built. You'd think they're just exhaust pipes to get the exhaust out. No, they're not. It's a huge deal.
But that's only really happened within the last 10 years.
Yes. Yeah. It wouldn't have been a big deal then, but it is, I'm telling you, it is now.
Well,
and there's
it was a big
rules.
deal. It was a big deal back. What was interesting is it was a big deal back then because it took a car that was running 196 and they immediately went 200 mile an hour because as it's done now, it helps with airflow, it helps with downforce, and it helps to push the car.
Yes, it's a huge deal. So I wanted to point out, I need to get a picture of my car just for fun, a semi-current car. But the angle of these headers, the issue is how far back are they laid? So front of the car's out in front of me here. How far back are they laid versus standing up? So everything's a compromise. So if you stand them up, let's call it almost straight up and down, it is stunning to believe how much downforce the exhaust making that bend and coming out pushes the car down to the ground. It's a huge amount of downforce that you gain. If you lean them back, then now they're going to be used more as thrust to move the car forward, and they're not going to give you the push to the ground. So everything's a compromise. What do you want? I have 2 sets of headers in the trailer, depending on where we're at. So Darian and his Darian wisdom will refer to when we go to Vegas is a good example where you've got an unbelievably good racetrack. Walk out on it and it's going to pull your shoes off unless you tied them 3 times tight. Okay, is it because that's the grip stuff that they put out. We used to.
It's glue.
It is.
It's a glue.
It's incredible. So anyway, and if we don't have that, we're not going anywhere. So you've got an incredibly good racetrack, and you're up at 4,000 or 5,000 foot corrected density altitude. So the motor is not thinking it's running at sea level; it thinks it's running at 4,000 or 5,000 feet. Yeah. So that means you're down on horsepower because you don't have the air, but you're on a racetrack that's massively awesome. So it creates an instant problem of creating wheel speed. It makes it really hard. You have to have a certain amount of wheel speed. So Darian refers to that as being an anemic gnat stuck to flypaper. Exactly. It is. So you can't turn that damn tire. So there's several, giving you real advanced tuning stuff here, but this is real stuff. If you keep those headers straight up, you're going to shove that car to the ground, making it more difficult to get the wheel speed you need. So we lean the headers back a little bit, and it makes a world of difference. That's not the only trick we have in our arsenal, but it's a big one. So the header angle is a really big deal, more than I ever understood would be possible when I got it. I had no idea, but it's a big deal.
Well, and we really got Jimmy Prock to thank for that, because Jimmy was the first one to do it on Robert's car.
And now they've
8 years ago.
Now they've got rules.
Well, yeah, because Jimmy laid them way back.
Right.
And they found out that, it really thrust. There was another big show team that I won't name because they did kind of get in trouble. Each pipe had a different angle.
Oh, wow.
So what you talk about.
If they measure that first one, you're legal.
You need some downforce, but you want some thrust. So it's literally trying to get your cake and eat it too.
That's cool. I didn't heard that. That's funny.
And you can see what Zoomies take a picture of the Tiki car there in the winner's circle. You can see that the way the headers. Those are true Zoomie funny car headers. That's how they look. Those have got about I think we were at about a 18-degree layback or something like that on that. But we weren't looking for performance in any stretch of the imagination. It was just that's what we wanted to look good.
The more fuel you put through that motor, the more exhaust you have coming out, the more thrust you have either down or forward.
Correct.
So the nitro cars, in my never to be humble opinion, seem to benefit more from it because we got more shit going through those headers to accomplish one or the other or splitting the difference.
A perfect example. When we fired the 1979 Top Fuel car, Robert Baroon's car, it has a 18-gallon fuel pump on it. Okay. It's a little small fuel pump. That's what they ran.
Top Fuel in 79 had an 18-gallon pump.
Yeah, and
Top Fuel supercharged blown nitro motor had an 18-gallon pump.
871 blower.
As a frame of reference, my naturally aspirated injected nitro car had a 48-gallon a minute pump, and we've just sent one of my pumps back to Settles, and it's now bigger, and it's probably 54 or so.
As a frame of reference, this blown alcohol car had a 17-gallon pump.
There you go. Exactly. So to have nitro at 18 is nuts.
Yeah.
But they didn't know what they didn't know.
Everything was just completely different.
God!
I mean, it's just been a huge, which is what is so fun about drag racing. But other forms of motorsports have made those paradigm changes as well. But you could walk. You fire the car up and it's sitting there at an idle. You can walk by the headers. You can't walk by the headers on a big show car without getting completely blown away.
It's the volume of crap that comes out is overwhelming, stunning.
Absolutely.
So we've got 48 mid 50 gallon pump. I've heard as high as 60 in my world. So time out. Frame of reference. What does that mean? It means that at speed, it could drain a 55-gallon drum in about a minute.
Right. Yeah.
Think about it. That's freaking nuts to drain a 50-gallon drum in a minute. That's massive. And yet, that is
Mike Salinas' fuel pump that
shit.
Just went 300 mile an hour in the 8th mile. He was draining two 55-gallon drums in a minute.
That's right. 110 gallon?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
I think they're like 116. So that's become the new black science with some of these guys. Every crew chief, they rebuild their own fuel pumps.
It's nuts.
Every single race. Not round, but every race.
Yeah, because it becomes so critical. Okay, but it's 110, 115, 120, whatever it is, it's stupid, insane. They could drain two 55-gallon drums in a minute. But here's a caveat that's gospel true. They are not putting in that volume of fuel all the way down the course. No. There's a split second of time where they've got enough wheel speed that they're not enable, but less likely to take the tire off. And so they pour the coals to it, and there's this narrow window of time where they can do that. So they're not leaving the line with that much
And then
fuel.
the BDK or the all valve comes in and starts pulling
and
it away.
Pulls it away. That's right.
Pull.
As it goes to lockup. Yeah.
And that's where I would give everything back. Everything I did racing wise, I would give it away to have Dave Baney back because he was a brother.
Yeah, of course.
But if Dave Baney was around, we would be out there running an injected nitro funny car.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Because they just made that. You're talking NHRA?
Correct. And
Yeah.
Big Show style. Big Show because they just brought it back in because, they're hoping that that's going to do something for the class. I think it is, but there's a number of other problems that they don't want to address.
And most of them are them, but that's never the issue.
No.
Just ask them, they'll tell you.
Exactly. But, Mixed Steel has been chiseling on this thing in private for a while. It runs okay, but they're still trying to figure out they've got to start pulling fuel away on the backside because it puts holes out.
Once
it
you
moves
lock it
really
up,
fast,
yes,
and it puts holes out on the other end.
So it's way more difficult than a dragster. With the weight difference on my car, you've got all the weight on the back end because all I got to do is pick those front end tires up, and I've got 2,200 pounds roughly on the back end, and it allows you to accelerate harder. Then I got this massive wing shoving down the back end, which allows me to accelerate harder further down course. In that damn funny car, unless you use a Big Show car body, which has a lot of aerodynamics built into it.
Both of those guys do. But the bigger thing, the more important thing is your engine. What are you, probably 32 inches to the motor plate?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's another black science that a lot of guys, angle, how far out,
it's a big deal.
Versus a funny car, which is double that.
Yeah.
And any of you guys that really, get into the physics, especially people that have flown and they start talking about moment and arm, and when you start putting stuff out, just
That's right.
take this broken chunk and pick it up here versus picking it up here. So much different.
Massive difference.
And that's and I just wish everybody would take a chill pill for a moment and say, you know what? This is what has made our sport so great, is that people are thinking outside of the box.
Yep.
And I've been involved with injected nitro injected nitro stuff since the mid-90s.
That's
when
crazy.
we started to build our car. When we were initially building our dragster, the weight break was 2.7 pounds per cubic inch.
No way. You know what the weight break is?
2.7 pounds.
Okay.
What is it, 5.4?
It's 5 pounds per cubic inch now.
So, hey, I've grown into the class.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
But anyways, I just everybody take a breath. Let's let this thing. Let's just let it see where it goes. In all of these years, all they've done is legislate
God.
the injected nitro cars.
Yes.
A-fuel scum. I was back in those days of A-fuel scum and all that stuff.
Yep.
Bang, 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 bang. Let us just do it. And you know what? If we get to a point to where we're competitive, honestly, right now, let the screw blower guys give them something. What do they need? Give them a performance option that they can try to go quicker. Don't penalize
the nitro car.
Don't. It's the U.S. government at work.
Yes, because what they wanted to do was limit the overdrive on those screw blowers.
Oh yeah,
Because
which they did, and it made it worse because the guys just spin the motors.
That's what I'm telling.
12,
the story I'm
yeah.
telling. So what happens is if they make that top pulley different so that it slows that blower down, the solution is clearly to spin the bottom pulley faster. Okay, so now we're revving that thing up and we're shifting not at 9,000 or 95 or 10. We're at 10.4 in a freaking push rod motor to shift that damn thing.
Unless you're Ulf Leander shifting it at 11,800 or whatever. These numbers are stupid with these guys.
Nuts. So that's why Jerry calls them part slingers.
Well, yeah,
because that's what they're going to be.
And that was my first meeting with Jerry was in 1997 at Dallas at the Revell Nationals with Gary Cooper. We qualified and we bumped him and Frank Pedregon out.
Whoa.
And that was when Jerry
97 in
97
Dallas. I was there.
And Frank Pedregon that was driving the in-and-out car for Jerry, and we bumped them out. And that was the last race because the next year he put Melanie in the car which is your car, which was an A-fuel car.
Yes. Okay. Oh my God, that's crazy. Robbie and I flew there because at that time I had the alcohol dragster, the ex-Blaine and Alan Johnson championship car, but I didn't have a motor.
Yeah.
Okay, because Parker's took their motor back. It's their motor, whatever. But I've got a roller now. I need a motor. So I'm flying there because I want to buy a motor, but I want somebody West Coast, and I want somebody that will not just sell me the parts, because if I don't know what I'm doing, first time your foot goes down, you grenade it, and now you say, we need another one. You still don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
So I need somebody that will help me.
Yeah.
So I get off the airplane, going to take a leak. I'm in the bathroom, and what do I see? A guy with a Division 7 championship jacket on, and he's part of Darian's team. I never met Darian in my life.
Right.
So I strike up a conversation in the bathroom at the airport. He says, I had to come talk to Jerry. After the event, and Frankie got his ass kicked.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, they didn't qualify. We bumped them out. I'm pretty sure because Gary Cooper had not run a 560. He'd run 570s with his dragster injected nitro car, and it had an Arias 10 liter. And that's my relationship with Gary Cooper was through Nick Arias and the 10 liter. He had the same kind of engine we had in that original car.
I didn't remember that part.
So, anyways, we go out and we go. It's like we throw everything at it, and we go and from running a 571. We were hoping to get like a 67 and maybe get into the field. We go 556.
Yeah.
We completely jump to 60s.
That's what the nitro cars will do.
That's what they do. And it's like, holy crap. And
where'd that come from? But
yeah.
can you do it again?
And,
I don't know.
And, well, we did it again, except Gary Redlit against Darrell Russell in the first round. So we were home.
So I don't remember that part. What I
Anyways.
remember is Darian leaning against the neighbor's trailer with me, and we talked for a couple hours after they got everything service put away.
Yeah.
And it was very kind to me. Anyway, he did that Darian deal, looked down over the top of his glasses, and he said, I gave Frankie enough hot rod to beat a whatever the number was. And I don't remember the number, but he was frustrated because he said he gave him enough hot rod, and they didn't turn the wind light on. So that's how I met Darian. So we started dialoguing about this alcohol motor, and within months, it was dead horse because he was building the A-Fuel car, putting Millie in it, and the car was brand new at Woodburn for the regional. It wasn't regional then, divisional then.
Yeah.
In 1998 with Millie in it, and that's that car right there that I now own.
Yeah.
Oh my God! The racing world is such an incredibly small bowl of Wheaties. There are people who think, wrongly so, that they can piss in one side of that bowl of Wheaties and it ain't going to affect the other, and they're morons. The most important thing in any of this stuff is relationships.
Absolutely.
You do what you say you're going to do, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
You can decide, crap, I wish I had never said that. I won't ever say it again. But by God, if you say it, you honor your damn commitment. You can not do it again, but you honor that. And that's a huge deal. Anyway,
all right, let's go back to jungle stuff.
All right, back to jungle. So
there's all the guys.
69.
So that's 2010
Now let's
Bakersfield.
go to
So that's at the World of Speed Museum. That's both of the twins. We called them the twins.
Incredible.
Jungle Jim's cars on the right. Jungle Claire's on the left. Those are the original cars. Original wheel. I mean, the only thing on the cars that were not original from back in the day were the engines. And what was really fun is that we put Dave paid good money to get L88 big block Chevrolets, 427 rectangle port casting numbers that would have been in an L88 Corvette. I had a number of Corvette guys come up and they look at that and then they see the casting numbers and they lost their shit. Those things need to be in a Corvette. It's like, no, this is what Jungle had. And what was awesome about it was Jungle had a deal with Chevrolet, and they would literally send him cylinder heads that were, just bare cylinder heads. He had 40 to 50 of them at his place.
Really? I never
because
knew that.
they would burn the heads out. They were wedge.
Okay.
So they would burn, because these are nitro motors. Back then they only ran on 60% because we're talking about stock blocks.
They didn't have the ability to stay together.
They didn't have main studs. They still used main bolts.
The idea of that now is so absurd. Back to innovators.
Yes.
I remember there was a blown fuel funny car that tried to run 4 valves per cylinder, and I thought that was the McGee guy, but I could be wrong.
Well, so the McGee's had a quad cam. They had overhead cam, 2 overhead cam cylinders. So it was a 4-cam engine. That was the McGee engine.
Okay.
And it also had 4 valves. Nasty Dave Benjamin had a 3-valve, 2 intakes, 1 exhaust.
What I remember is whoever had the 4-valve deal, and I don't have the memory of this crap you do because I never cared to pay attention, but I remember that they tried it and came back and the exhaust valves, because they're so much smaller, were gone. There's about nothing left of them because they couldn't deal with the heat of that nitro going
the
out.
biggest problem that they had with the valves, but they also, what they would do, and Gary Beck was the only one who really flogged that McGee motor out, really ran it and tried to make it work, was that it would burn the wall between the 2 exhaust ports.
Yeah, there you go.
So, because they, and this was back in the 35 to 40 gallon pump range.
Yeah, a fraction of what they are now.
Yeah, so
it's stunning to get this stuff to work.
And we're still, I've got on my new car, I've got Alan Johnson Stage 2 heads, fuel heads.
Yeah.
And they have what they call a shoe, that it's a piece of metal that goes around the bronze, the K valve for the guide for the exhaust.
Right.
Because what was happening is on those early Alan Johnson heads, they were starting to put fuel through it, and it was burning all of the aluminum around the K guide.
Wow.
So Alan created what they would do is they would put this Inconel steel insert into the exhaust port, bolt it up in there, and then they would come back and they would do a finished port on it, so it would live.
I didn't know that. Yeah. That's cool. So the
jungle cars,
which were nicer, by the way, in this picture, in reality, than they were back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Larry Petrich, when he saw, he goes, yeah, the other thing you need to do, kid, just take a couple quarts of oil and throw it all over that car because that's what Jungle's car looked like.
Yeah.
Jungle was, nice. It was, those cars were not anything but tools.
Yes,
tools with which to make money.
Right. That's
all it was. All it was. Tools with which to make money and pick up chicks.
Yeah, and he was good at that too.
So
here's
the blinky hat. This is Bowling Green. We went to Bowling Green. Won it. I won that. That was the winner circle shot of the National Hot Rod Reunion.
Here?
No, the one below it with the Tiki car. But anyways, that's my trophy. My win at Mission with Shelby Purser. My first 2013. That was with the Tiki car. But back at Bowling Green, we would take the jungle cars. So Bowling Green is Beach Bend Campground.
Yep.
Has a wooden roller coaster. Everybody needs to go to Bowling Green, Kentucky to go to that racetrack. It is so cool. Bowling Green's the home of Holley carburetors. Bowling Green's the home of Corvette.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So we go to Bowling Green, and we kind of become this we've started to get some notoriety off of some of my antics. I mean, doing the jungle gym stuff, all of that kind of stuff. I win the race in 2011. We run that race. I run that. We put the body down according to what Baney said. He looked at his watch. It was 12:40 in the morning because it had rained all that day, and so they waited and ran us at night.
Yeah.
So 1 a.m. in the morning, I'm staging the car. I'm getting ready to do my,
That's cool.
I do my burnout. Again, Steve Walczyk had a little Bantam Roadster. They knew my deal. They knew I'd do these big burnouts. And unbeknownst to us, he was a self-starting car.
Oh, wow.
He did his burnout with me, and then he backs up and he shuts the car off. Brett and Dave and all the guys, yeah, we won! Single! He broke.
Oh, my God.
I do my burnout. I back up. Don't change any of my routine. I back up, and then all of a sudden they hear him start his car again.
Oh, my God.
Race is on. Fortunately, I outran him. Didn't go faster than 7 seconds. Won the race. Big party. Huge party. Pam was there. Huge celebration. We go back the next year in 2012 with the new car. Go to the semifinals. What's that Joe? What's his name? He did a deal. We did a segment. I did Hot Rod TV with them. It was pretty nice. I wished I would have. Anyways, we went to the semifinals, and I got beat. But we take the jungle car in this campground. We would hear this thing at night going on. People down in this campground, and they're carrying on, and they're doing burnouts, and you hear this, and it's like
clearly they don't have the same noise restrictions we do at Woodburn.
It's hey, when you go that side of the Rockies, it's a different world, and then when you go that side of the Mississippi, it's a double different world.
Yes, it is.
And so it's like, let's go down and check it out. So we go down there, and there's this huge party, this campground. There's a bathroom, and they got a garden hose coming off of the bathroom with a hose bib. They're putting water down, and guys are pulling up with their cars, doing burnouts, and going on like this, and we're just kind of checking out. It's all cool. Pam's there, Bill's there, the whole Tiki team's there, Gwen's there, and Heidecker, Gregg Heidecker, the professional fan that he is. I love him to death, like a brother. And Baney goes, "This looks like fun," and he goes, "Maybe we should bring the jungle car down here and cackle it."
Oh, wow.
And Scott goes, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Well, talk to Ron, see if Ron's up for it." And Scott like, "Really?
That won't be a hard
Do you
sell.
think I need to ask Ron?" We go get the car. We haul ass up there. Scott and myself and Tim Turner, our friends from Kentucky, Tim and Kristen and Gwen. We go up. We get the batteries. We get the car. I crawl in the car. We tow down. It's pitch black. It's 11 o'clock at night. 11, it's late. It's late at night. We drag this thing down there and then play the video. Okay. This is what ensues.
This is what happened.
This is the one time I was a rock star.
That's a lot of folks there. That's cool.
There's probably, 300, 400. You couldn't walk through this crowd.
No, it was packed.
Everywhere was people.
What time is this? A day?
This is in the middle of the night.
That's what I thought.
This is like close to midnight.
God darn.
These guys are freaking out. So we're sitting there, we're running the car, and then Scott looks at me, we're all happy with the car, and then Scott looks at Brett and he goes, "Let's put the body down." So we give him what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So you can see the weed burners. That's header fire coming out of it.
At an idle.
So we take the body, we put it down. And it's at that point that, when the body comes down in the funny car, it's mine.
Yep.
I do what I want to do. And I'm sitting there. It's a torque flight. I'm in park. And I start whacking the throttle, and the place just literally goes bananas. I've got people hanging on the fender of the car. They're right up against it. They're just looking at it. This is insane. And Pam is like having the time. It's 1970s all over again.
All over again. That's so cool.
And it was. And this is an iron big block Chevrolet 1968 rectangle port on 90% nitro. We put a 90% load in it for cackling. We never ran it down the track. Well, he did it the following year, but then he crashed the car back to Chevrolet. And that was a 392 that we put in. So we're going along. And my buddy, that's Twiggy and Cody Helger, the Helger boys. That's in another picture. These are some friends from Rhode Island that we have. And this place just goes bonkers. And we're all like rock stars. It's literally like Led Zeppelin just walked out of it. Right. And Pam, she's just, everybody's freaking out. We're having a great time, all because of our big brother thinking this would be fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, like me, as my boys know, Ron tries to grab another beer. Hey, let's bring the tiki down and a little burnout with the tiki car. We're done. So that's a Gregg Heidecker video. We did that down there. It was a lot of fun. But so that next picture, that's Cody Helger and Zig and Squiggy, my buddies, and you're gonna see I have this goofy hat on. So we fire the car, we'd shut it off, we get out, and I look over and there's these people standing over in a campground, and they got these hats with these little tassel balls on them that light up and they blink. And it's like, I gotta have that hat. I gotta have the blinky hat. And so I go over there and they go, that was really cool. And it's like, I want your hat. Well, these are the only hats we got. And I go, how many you got? I got 5. I go, perfect. I got 5 on my team, and me and 4 others. And I go, how much do you want for the hats? I will buy the hats. Well, I go, would you like T-shirts? Oh, you got T-shirts? I go, yeah. So I literally go back to the trailer with 2 of these people from this team where we're towing the jungle car back. I'm pulling out tiki shirts. I'm pulling out jungle shirts. I'm going to somebody else's trailer and taking their shirts. I want these hats. I end up with these hats, and that's where that one picture of me and the team. And we are known. That was part of us having fun. They're known as the Blinky hats. I still have my Blinky hat. We put batteries in them, and it's just. That's a memory that's just for us, guys, and it was awesome. So
here's a picture with you and
that's Pam. That's me and Pam. That's 2010. Jungle and herself were recognized in the Justice Brothers Award that year at the Bakers at the reunion.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough. We just finished that car. I had done a lot of fiberglass work on it to get the body fixed because it was pretty rough. Randy and Tyson Parker did a full chassis and tin work restoration on that car. Tyson was up there working at the time.
Who owned the car?
Baney. This was both of them were Dave's. And so we take this, and and that picture did the burnout, starting the Cackle Fest, which at that time, that year, they had 105 cars they push started.
Oh my God, it's nuts.
And literally, I came, and what was so funny is, I am towing back. I do this burnout, and I'm towing back up the return road. And Pam is being honored. She's driving down with the car that they honored.
Yeah.
And the body's down. I still have I have my helmet and my face mask off, but I have my jacket. I'm sitting in there, my hair's all messy. And I didn't see her till we towed back to the trailer, and she come up to me crying. She says, my God, I looked through that windshield and I swore I saw Jungle.
That's cool.
So here
you are.
That's my beloved sis, Pam.
Yep.
She is being honored. I want to plug this, everybody. She is now being inducted into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame at Garlitz's Museum in March.
Oh, that's
She's
fantastic.
well deserving of it.
Of course.
And so we will be back there for that.
That's cool.
To her immediate right is our dear friend Pete White, who was affectionately known as White Peter. Pete was the longtime crewman for Jungle. Pete was on the car with Jungle when Pam joined in 1972.
I'll be damned.
And they're friends to this. They're lifelong friends.
Yeah.
Pete and his dear wife Anne Marie. We see them when we go back there. They're just wonderful people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. finish up here.
So that's me
I
and
got
the
a couple
boys at
pictures of
Maple
mine to
Grove.
show you, so
yeah, that's
get
me and
through
the
this.
boys at Maple Grove. We ran back. We took the car back there after that fire up at, when Bowling Green the following week was the 50th anniversary at Maple Grove, and we joked those were the best 2 weeks of our lives because we literally road tripped the entire way. We have this incredible story about driving down to Reading, down to the track at Maple Grove, and we went through the 7 circles of hell to get it. When you meet the boys, you need to ask them about it. It's a great story.
Okay, so we got that. Now we're to Sharpelow's funny cars. This is
Cancer.
Woodburn.
Cancer sucks. We hate cancer. F cancer.
I have the Cancer Sucks shirt.
I lost my mom in 2002 to cancer. She died 15 minutes after my grandmother, my dad's mom. They both died on the same day from cancer. We lost Dave Bainey on April 1st, 2018 to cancer. That was really, really hard because, I'm the oldest. I've got a younger brother, but he was like my big brother.
I get it.
And we had this incredible relationship. And we always talk about it's kind of the day the music died, so to speak, in a number of ways, and not just on the car side of things, and not just on the museum side of things, but just on a number of fronts for us as a group.
Relationship,
it just hurt.
That's
And so the agreement was, and we honored that agreement. The Tiki car got parked, and that Tiki car has never seen the light of day. I mean, we had all the certs done. Scott and I had just put a brand new motor together for the car, ready to go for that season. Dave insisted on that. We were also building a fuel altered that Garrett Bateman built for us.
I saw pictures.
I call it a stillborn because it just didn't quite make it.
Right.
Dave passed. Regrettably, Dave passed away, and all that stuff. Literally, it's Scott and I. All we needed to do was put fuel and oil in the tank, and it still sits to this day, 5 years later, like that. And
there's no thought of you buying it. And
she won't. No, it's not for. Nothing is for sale.
Gotcha. Okay.
Nothing is for sale. So
now you're
I'm trying.
I'm
I'm really trying. I'm kind of trying to figure out my way around life. And Mike Sharpelow's, who's a friend, lives here in the area.
Yep.
Sharpelow has acquired a number of cars. I don't know. He's just crazy.
He's never seen heard of a double B car that he doesn't buy.
Unbelievable. Anyways, he's just kind of goofy about that.
He is
so
a unique individual.
So that white '57 Chevy was the old Bernie Rugg car that Dave and I first kind of saw. That Marty Stewart bought it. He got it from Marty Stewart. Garrett Bateman worked on that car, helped Marty, and then Garrett did some fab work on it, and Garrett was driving the car. The Nova. That's a Mike Robeck built car. Great car, drives like a cat. Wonderful driving car. That was for his son Gage. And they wanted to get out and run it. Randy Parker, I helped Randy. Randy and I ran this car basically by ourselves one weekend, and we won with it, with Randy driving. And then Randy says, put Ron in the car. So I get in the car, and this was, Garrett and I were really, Garrett wanted to try and do a burnout. And I go, yeah, you ain't going to try it. Good luck. And I mean, literally all he saw was smoke. So, but it was there's another picture I got of Garrett sitting on the headers and me messing with his head over the top of the motor. But this is, again, friends and family,
good
just
times,
doing this
man.
stuff.
Awesome
but
times.
It's like that one girlfriend that you had that no matter how good your relationship may be with your wife or with anybody else, there was something special. And so what we had with Dave was really special. And I just couldn't drive anybody else's stuff. And I've been asked to drive a number of other cars. It's just like, no, I don't want to. So I went back to building my own car.
Gotcha.
So that's
cool.
that's a car that's in waiting. It's in hiding. We're building it. I don't want to publicly share what it's really going to look like, but I can tell you it is an injected nitro funny car.
Awesome.
With a 70 CUDA body on it.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's going to have a clear back window, like funny cars were supposed to have.
That's cool. All right.
So
we're down to the last two.
So again, this is my dear brother Dave Bainey. This is World Speed Museum. Dave, I worked with Dave, and we built up his great collection of cars, and through that, we ultimately ended up getting 3 Indianapolis Speedway cars. This is a 1966 Lola T80.
Wow.
That was driven by Roger Ward. I don't know if you can blow the picture up very well, but look to the side of it. This is the only Offenhauser powered car that has a roots blower on it. It's a roots blown with a 2-port Hillborn hanging off the side, and you can see. Look at that Hillborn scoop right where your cursor is.
I'll be damned.
So
I'll be damned. I wouldn't have caught that.
So Roger Ward drove this car in 1966. Won the Langhorne 150 at Langhorne, Pennsylvania. That was kind of the warm-up race they ran in April prior to going to Indianapolis in the month of May. This is the last Indy car that Roger Ward drove. Roger Ward was the most successful win percentage IndyCar racer in the 60s.
Wow.
From 1959 to 1966.
That's awesome.
When he retired.
I would have never caught
He
that.
was the champion in 1965. And so I was blessed with the opportunity to drive this car. So,
that's so cool.
If I wasn't a drag racer, I'd be an Indianapolis guy. I love the Indy cars, the incredible history that happens in Indianapolis. And so
That's pretty cool.
they don't do it anymore because of certain reasons, all of which I was not a part of, thankfully. But they used to have a program where they would run vintage Indy cars on Friday and Saturday before the 500.
That's a cool idea.
And so on Saturday, during what was called Carburation Day, I drove this in the group that was post-war to 1966.
Oh, okay.
And so I was out on the track for 20 minutes with 37 other Indy cars from that era.
Wow.
From roadsters. I was one of 3 rear-engine cars in that group.
Wow.
Driving around there, It's my Jesus. I always tell everybody it's my Jesus moment.
Yeah, no kidding.
Start on the back straight, just outside it, just out of turn 2. You go down the back straight. That is a 2-speed. That is a 2-speed transmission in that car. So you roll out and you shift the car. You don't want to run that motor much over $7,000. So you take it up to about 6,400 and you shift it into high. And literally, I'm going along and I plug it at like 5 because it's like, I don't want to screw this thing up. and I'm looking down there and it's a mile. It's a mile between turn 2 and turn 3.
Wow.
And it's a quarter of a mile between 3 and 4 and 1 and 2.
Oh, wow.
Short chutes are a quarter mile, front straights are a mile. 2.5 mile track.
Wow.
I'm looking at turn 3, I'm going, that's a long ways, and all of a sudden it comes up pretty quick.
Oh, boy.
And it's like, wow, this is kind of cool. Turn in, just like I'm told, turn into it, put the foot in the throttle. Turn 4 comes up pretty quick. I turn out at turn 4, and I look up, and the first thing I see is the pagoda, the pylon, the pylon and the pagoda. So the pylon is a scoring deal, shows all the run area, all 33 cars for the 500, and the famous pagoda. And then I look over to the right, and there's these incredible grandstands.
Yeah.
And I get goosebumps still thinking about it. It's like, holy crap, I am driving a real, live, honest-to-God Indianapolis race car at speed at the Indianapolis Motor
How
Speedway.
fast were you going? Do you know?
Went 140 mile an hour.
Wow, that's
so
awesome.
It was really funny. We were really curious about it. And so Scott, he says, he took his cell phone and he put it on the GPS thing for mile an hour and shoved it inside my jacket.
I'll be damned. That's brilliant.
And you remember, we're of the same generation, same age. You remember Arilla the gorilla?
Yes.
That was driving the race car. It was this big thing sticking out of the race car. I was Arilla the gorilla because I had my.
That's small.
I mean, everybody says, Ron's not going to get in it. Ron, I go, it's a race car. Trust me, I'm getting in it. I got in the car.
Getting in,
but my head was sticking out of it, and so I'm going out there. I'm 20 minutes, and every lap, get a little bit more confidence, start going faster. More RPM. It's like, this is working great. And they had all these photographers lined up on the pit wall. And so all the cars would kind of come dip down and you see the flashes like, and you're driving in early in the morning, 8 o'clock or whatever it was. And just whistle along. And like my 7th, maybe 8th lap out there doing this, all of a sudden I feel my impact helmet, which is the same one that you have with the respirators.
Yep.
Open wheel helmets have a little shark bill on the bottom, so the air hits it and pushes it down. Right. And I didn't have a chin strap. I'm going along, and all of a sudden, I feel this helmet going,
oh no,
like this. And the first thing that comes through my mind is this thing's going to pop off my head, and they're going to think my bean's still in it, and it's bouncing across the front straight. It's going to be all over Racer, all over the social media, So it's like, hey, let's just slow it down and just have a good time. So I did.
That's funny. That's awesome.
So
those are great stories. I've got a couple pictures of my own of our area together to show you. So this hangs on the wall in my race shop and should bring back memories.
Yep.
Because that we did together.
Yeah, it's Yakima.
That's Yakima, Washington. And that's where I made this.
Yep. Yeah, this is when you turn a connecting rod or a wrist pin into a splitting maul.
Yep, it uses a knife to cut the connecting rod in half vertically, and I've offered to sell this to anybody numerous times just for my cost. Wasn't trying to make any profit at all. Cost me $15,000 to make it.
Yeah.
And I haven't had, there's no profit in that at all. I haven't had any takers yet. Yeah. But that's one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen.
Yep.
And it demonstrated the power of nitromethane.
Yep.
If you screw it up, if you stay within the lines, it is unbelievable. If you step outside the lines, you don't break the laws of physics. You're only broken by them.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
nuts. All right, one more.
I on this one, go ahead, tell a story. Let's talk about
this is from the National Dragster. Let me get this out of here because this goes with it. So,
Seattle National Event 2002.
Yes, yes. So, oh my God, I had no spare parts. I didn't have anything. Now I've got spare everything. I've got 2 chillers. You got to have spare everything. I didn't have anything. So we go out there and I step down on the throttle, and that happens. And they say if you can't go fast, by God, be spectacular. We made the top of the Dragster pictures. And what did that? Well, this is what did that. That is a very small camshaft. That's what's left. That's back when we used standard core cams. That's a standard Chrysler camshaft style.
Right. So it broke at the first bearing, and I have the remainder, what's left
the
over
other
piece of this camshaft.
And I forgot about that.
And do you remember? And so this is a Steve Tansey Urson camshaft,
yes.
And he would regrind these, and they would cut them down, and it would get smaller and smaller, and
they don't get bigger.
Darian's like, yeah, you can't regrind.
No,
you can't make a copy of a copy of a copy.
No, it loses something. So we broke it. We're screwed up. Now what? And I went to Darian, and it's very reluctantly, but I ended up borrowing a high altitude camshaft. We're at Seattle. Sea level, but it was my only option. We stayed up all night to glue it together.
Oh, yeah.
And son of a bitch, if we didn't go out and qualify in the top half of the field.
Yeah, we made it.
Unbelievable. So the stories, the memories, the crap we've done in this sport, it just shapes who you are. It's unbelievable how it imprints in your soul,
right.
And the relationships along the way, the memories you make, it's just irreplaceable.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to describe, but there are folks who are designed to be in the stands and watch, and God bless them. We got to have them, or we can't do what we do. I'm just not wired that way, and so it's just been incredible. But you pay an incredible price to do this, and financially as well. But in many ways, it's very, very challenging to do.
Yeah, no, it's and I will say no. I mean, not taking anything away from any other kind of racing out or racer within drag racing. But ultimately, what we do with an injected nitro motor is incredibly more challenging than most anything out there. The blown alcohol dragsters, they're still running the same gear ratio transmissions that they ran 30 years ago. They haven't made changes. 30 years ago, the injected nitro cars had a 2-speed transmission.
Yes. Yes.
They took the 2-speed out because they found that the pump speed fell. It messed up everything.
Yes.
That is what, and I challenge everybody to kind of go back. There was an old film done back in the late 50s with the Dragmaster guys, Dode and Martin, what's called Ingenuity in Action. And drag racing has been nothing but ingenuity. I understand why we're kind of where we're at now, because if you just let it run rampant, we're going to end up like Formula One.
Yeah.
Which it's not going to be checkbook racing. It's going to be bank racing, because you are going to have to own a bank to do this.
It's nuts. That Formula One's nuts stuff.
But I do think if somebody really, truly, pragmatically sits down and thinks about it, we lost Dale Armstrong a number of years ago, and he had a number of interesting ideas to try and control the cost of racing and the ability with which teams could try and innovate, because Dale Armstrong, honestly, next to Austin Coyle, he's probably one of the greatest innovators in drag racing out there.
Brilliant.
From the lockup clutch to the computer to he put 3 spark plugs in a Hemi head.
Oh, I'll be damned.
All that stuff. All that stuff.
So I got a story there. Darian has been on the with drivers in his car that are related to the pro side. For example, he's had all 3 of the Force girls, so you got all the big show cars in the Force team that he had access to, all their data, all their resources, all their parts. It was just incredible.
Brandon
Same
Bernstein.
thing with Bernstein.
Yep.
Okay. So he's had lots of experience being able to work hand in hand with these big show car crew chiefs. So he's gone over to a number of them and said, hey, what do you think of this A-Fuel deal? And every damn one of them says, I don't even know how to start that thing. I wouldn't even know where to begin to tell you to do anything.
Right, yeah.
It is it's not just, well, we have a blower and clutch management and a few more cubic inches. It's a completely different animal and works completely differently. Folks who are really good at blown alcohol, if they make the change to injected fuel, are screwed for quite a while because it's exactly the opposite. In an alcohol car, as I understand, you can lean them out and they'll run a little faster. You do that in this and it goes slower because all the damn power is in the fuel. Right. You can't lean it out. So, but what do you do when you're at altitude? Well, there's a few knobs you can turn to try to make all that work. But you can't use your alcohol training. It'll just screw you up badly.
Yeah. You know, the easiest way to explain it to an individual who doesn't have the hands on these cars like we do is, and it's something that we can tell anybody in this area, go out in your street and just run up and down your street 4 or 5 times. Then get in your car and drive up to Timberline Lodge and run back and forth and tell me what you feel.
Yeah.
And it's because of the lack of oxygen.
Yep.
Now, and it's which is really kind of as a misnomer and an outlier because you have a track like Reading, Pennsylvania, which has nothing but trees around it, or Seattle. Mm-hmm. And what do trees do for us, folks? Yep. They take the CO2 and they create oxygen.
That's right.
So these trees are pumping oxygen. So you have what is measured sea level, and then you have temperature and humidity, which creates density sea level, which is going to be different. But then you throw in another radical, which is called the trees, which are putting oxygen into the air.
Yep.
And then matters. God forbid we have any humidity, so then we have water grains.
Water grains.
You know. But the thing is that at the end of the day, all we have is our little engine that has pistons and valves like everybody else's engine.
It's just an efficient air pump.
But it's an air processing facility. We don't have a pump on top of it like the blower cars do.
No, not at all. So the only air you can get in is what you can draw in if you're playing legal. That's all you can do. No zeolite, no nothing. That's another topic for
I don't even. What?
I don't know. I heard a rumor. Anyway.
Light beer from Miller, yes. Drink light beer from Miller. That's Brett and I's drink.
So,
Ocean beverage again.
There it is. So anyway, hey, this has been awesome to tell stories. Your memory is just stunning, all the details. You should make a damn encyclopedia. It's incredible the crap you remember.
Well, it's all I've done. You know, I talked about my childhood book that my mother had from being a baby on, and they realized early, it was really funny, is like, you know, by 3 years old I was just looking at Hot Rod magazine. I didn't even look at Dr. Seuss. I was just looking at it, and I couldn't read, but I could look at and it's like, oh, I'm looking at this, and then I literally it was just these things were put in front of me. And what was really, you know, from my first car that I owned, 73 44-speed CUDA, to my 67 GTX, everything I did, I had to earn money to have it. It wasn't handed to me.
Yep.
And it was hard It was really hard scrapple for me. And in some ways, I was like, God, I wish I could have had a little bit of help funding or, you know, or whatever. But it taught you stuff, man. It taught me to be kind of wise with what I had. But it also, you know, when I broke the transmission of my GTX, I had to fix it myself because I didn't have the money to give Leo Gorowski to fix the torque flight in it.
Right.
You know, and it's not a standard transmission; it's an automatic, and automatics have all these little check balls and springs and all of that stuff. And I didn't put the rooster spring in it, so it didn't work right. So I had to take it out and took it to Leo, and he says, "Come on, kid, let me show you how to do this."
So you were reading the Hot Rod magazines, kid. I distinctly remember reading all the National Dragsters when I was a little kid, and just enthralled with the stories and the pictures and the speed and the smoke and incredible stuff. And it set that hook as my dad had his car.
What was really interesting is that, Hot Rod was great, but honestly, I think if you sit back and you look at the volumes, step back and look at it, between Hot Rod and Carcraft was drag race oriented. Carcraft had all of the drag racing stuff. Carcraft had the All-Star Awards, the Ollies they called them. And they were these little cool Christmas trees. Was really honored the racers outside because they didn't have these. You know, we're still talking about drag racing. Honestly, so 1970, organized drag racing at that point is only 20 years old.
Yeah.
Not even 20 years old. It's 19 because the very first organized drag race Pappy Hart put on at Saugus. Okay?
Right.
Or I'm not at Santa Ana. So that's not even an organized sport. Wally Parks didn't go out with the safety safari until a couple years later.
Yeah.
And, so we're still talking about a sport in its infancy when you're looking at Indy Indianapolis Raceway racing. By 1970, they had been racing for 60 years, with the first race being 1911.
Right.
Grand Prix racing, Formula One racing, it was, it too had a 60-year history. NASCAR started in 1947. Big Bill France started in 1947. So NASCAR had a little bit of a head start. But drag racing, the beautiful thing about drag racing, even to this day still, is that it can afford any individual, whether you're fans of us with drag racing, no Gregg, no me, whatever it is, or somebody that's just channel surfing on YouTube, you could take whatever's sitting in your driveway, electric, gas, whatever it is, diesel,
dually, doesn't matter.
whatever it is, you can take it to your local drag strip and you can race that. You can't do that in Formula One. You can't do that in Indy Car. I do some of that stuff. We just had track days for road racing, but ultimately the most easily accessible form of any racing is drag racing, and it's basically bore out of the fact that these young guys, young men and women coming home from the war, the greatest generation, they were just dying to do something. And they would take and they would build these cars, and then they'd line two of them up. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was Johnny Carson that said it? He said, because he did a couple of drag racing stuff, and he drove Granatelli's Indy car one time. And he said, racing has been around since the Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel didn't fight to die. Cain killed Abel because Abel beat him in a foot race. Something, Johnny. It's been around. It's a competitive spirit, but it's there. It's able. It's accessible. We can do it. The biggest challenge we have really right now is honestly just getting new blood in it.
Yeah.
And letting whether they're young people, which you and I, we grew up reading those magazines. That's all we had. We didn't have social media. We didn't have computers. We didn't have none of that stuff. No. My laptop as a kid was an Etch-a-Sketch. Yeah. And I only traded the Etch-a-Sketch in 2 years ago, so I've just now got something.
You early adopter, you.
I do Pongs. I just figured out Pong.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I played Pong. I remember that when I came out.
We got that for Christmas. Hey kids, you're getting. I don't want this. I want a car.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. This has been absolutely awesome.
No, it's awesome, yeah.
You are such an incredible wealth of information. It's just stunning, overwhelming. But our lives have overlapped and interlaced through the years, and it's been awesome to watch what you've done. Absolutely incredible. So thank you for spending time with me.
Yeah.
You are absolutely a cool kid, and I appreciate you being here with me.
Well, thanks a lot. And, thanks to everybody. Got to thank, first of all, thank Mom and Dad for creating me. I don't think Mom knew what she was getting into in the backseat of that 55 Chevy. Dad was home on leave. But, all my family's been great to me. I will say that. I just had my daughter and my son-in-law and my two grandkids, Eli and Eliana. You saw them.
Yep.
That's grandkids next to drag racing. They're the greatest things in the world. And they're probably even better. I'd probably give up the drag racing for the grandkids.
We've got Mallory, our 6-year-old granddaughter. So this is horrible. I'm recording this. Oh, my God. So there's always this competition with the grandparents. Okay. So when Mallory comes down here, I go, well, I know what I've got they don't have. So I get the golf cart out of the trailer, and I put Mallory in, and we haul ass down the curb on the sidewalk, and we go to Starbucks down the street here, go through the drive-thru with me, Mallory, and Maggie, my Dalmatian, and she likes those cake pop deals. So we buy, what do you want? Well, I don't know what flavor. So we buy all 4 of them for her. She eats 3 of them, gives me the sticks, and says, here, hold these. So my dad doesn't know I had more than one. She's 6, for God's sake. But it's hilarious. Yeah. So she loves going on these golf cart rides with me. We have the greatest time.
That's what grandparenting is for.
Oh, my God. Hell yes.
Ruin them. It's like,
awesome.
We were like, you can't do that to I'm not doing that to my kids, but, bring the grandkids. Here.
Everything's different.
It's great. But,
time.
Gwen, my significant other, my wife, my partner, she has set down the law for me on the car stuff. As far as you need to focus, we're not going to build a hot rod and a funny car at the same time. Build the funny car. She somehow, I don't know, she's got some, I've got a little bit of a hollow leg that can hold alcohol. She's got a hollow leg that holds the bunny, so she can kind of keep funneling it into the beast. As you know, they are a beast financially. But hey, I bought this car, and my guys were like, yeah, I don't know if we want to do it. They tried to lift the body that I had on it, which was a satellite body that weighed probably 600 pounds.
Oh, bitch.
It was as smooth on the inside as it was on the outside because they wanted to make it pretty on the inside, too. You don't do that with a funny car. No. And they say, nah, no, we're not going to do it. It's too heavy. So I went out and got a nice, lightweight CUDA body. They go, yeah, okay. Injected nitro. So
nitro's cool.
Scott Davis and Brett Davis, the Davis boys, and Dave Loney. All three of those guys are successful in their own right with their own street cars. Brett Davis, he runs this incredibly gorgeous orange 55 Chevy, all steel. He's had the car since, I think, 91. I know there's videos of him racing that car at PIR in 1993.
I'll be damned.
Fully restored it with his dad. They did a bunch of stuff. Fred Davis, another, he's an integral part of the team, has a big block Chevy in it. He has a car that's probably close. I think it's like 3,800 pounds. Has a full interior. Jeez. It's a 55 Delray, and it runs 1009 at 130.
Wow. That takes a lot of horsepower to move that
street
much
car.
weight.
It's a street car with there's no power, no nitrous, no nothing. And,
naturally aspirated. Wow.
Naturally aspirated. Brett's won with the car out there, the hot rod class at Woodburn. His brother Scotty Davis, he has this cool little bitchin' 64 Nova. The thing will pack the front end. Brett's car is now starting to pack the front end pretty good, which is really cool. Bitchin' to see. The Davis boys, they ran against each other just 2 weekends ago at the Hot Rod Nationals. It's great, and Fred, the father's just beaming. I mean, he's an adopted dad of mine. And then, of course, Dave Loney. Dave's kind of like he's the character of us all. I mean, I kind of do all the dumb, stupid stuff, and Brett supplies me with all the great ideas to do the dumb, stupid stuff. But Dave Loney, he is now officially, after last weekend, he is the champion in the super shifter class with his 55 Chevrolet that he bought from Lee Smith, that Lee had built. And that white and yellow car, and he's got that. He's been chiseling away at it, and he's now got it in the 960s.
Wow!
And it's got a Jeffco transmission, so he's pulling levers. It's a true clutch car.
That's awesome.
You can see all of that stuff. I'm going to plug, going to do cheap gratuitous plug, D Loney V8 channel. He's on YouTube. He's got a bunch of great videos. We go out and we do stuff at the track. I do some fun videos of the race car. I think I don't know if we got over to Gregg's yet. We haven't done most of the big car stuff, but because they really focus on what they're doing with their door car stuff. But we're starting to do some stuff with my funny car. We're going to get out there, and Dave and I have a tendency to yuck it up on this stuff a little bit, and but if I didn't have those guys behind me and Gwen and my family, I wouldn't be doing this.
No, of course not. Of course not. Well,
Friends
thank you again for being here,
Randy
man.
Parker, all of that.
It's awesome.
Great.
That's the point. That's why I started this, is the relationships, the stories we have, the crap we've done. That's like,
absolutely,
what the hell were we thinking in our heads?
Yeah.
But here we are, and it's woven into the fabric of who we are.
Exactly.
And so it's integral. It's not ancillary. It's integral. It's part of who we are. It's a big deal.
You need to sell that dragster and buy a funny car. Then you could get back in the driving seat. Because as Bucky looked at me and he said, "Boy, you're a funny car driver, and nitro cars need load."
That's right. That's right. You know what I want?
I know you want an altered.
I want a fuel altered.
Well, hey, I think I want to get an altered body because I want to do my burnouts and actually see the smoke off the tire. And then I'd like to see the header fire popping out of those little headers.
And see, it's something Garrett and I talked about, is that we need to shut this down here, go all night. But a true fuel altered, in my opinion, has dragster headers and dragster front tires.
Oh yeah,
not funny car front tires.
Well, you saw
funny car headers.
So I was really adamant when Garrett was doing that roadster, and the fiber. I mean,
that's where this conversation came from, was from that picture.
So and literally, I worked a lot on that body. I hate fiberglass. I've done it all my life. That's kind of been my background. I hate it, but there's things that have to look right, and a Bantam should not have a cowl that's this long. They have these little tiny cowls, but it's really hard to do it with the way the motors are stretched out now.
Right.
But I was able to pull it off with a lot of cutting and slicing and magic. But I think a true fuel altered, like you say, should have small front wheel and tire.
Yep.
Should have short zoomy headers on it.
Absolutely.
Or they could be zoomy headers, not funny car style, but they could be zoomies that are a little bit long, because those early cars, they would have a pipe on them like this long.
That's okay. Just not funny car headers.
But the other thing that they shouldn't have on them, they shouldn't have a wing.
Depends how fast you want to go.
Well, hey, I watched Brian Hope in the Pure Hell run a 589 at 240 mile an hour with no wing on that car.
Seriously.
And an 11-inch tire.
That's stout. Seriously. Oh, my God, that's stout.
And Brian, he said that was about the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life.
God, yeah, because there's a point at which it's no longer skill. There's a degree of luck in that.
Well, I tell everybody, asks me, so what do you really like about drag racing? I said, the two greatest feelings in the world, and I dare you to say I'm wrong, is the launch, when that car puts you back in the seat, and the second best feeling is when those chutes hit. You know you're going to stop.
Because you're ready to be done.
You're done. It's like,
done.
Thank you, dear Jesus.
Yes.
Let's park this thing.
Yeah, when the chutes hit, and it just sucks the wind out of you.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so hard. Oh,
yeah.
That's the greatest feeling in your world.
Because you know you're going to fight another battle.
That's right. That's right. Ron, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
It's been a blast.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all being here. Come back next time. Join us, Cool Kids Club. Share this. Please send this out to folks you think might get a hoot out of this, and like us. It would help us to help you to make more of these. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate your time. You're a cool kid, man. Thank you much. Talk to y'all soon. Bye. This was awesome.
Yeah.
You did good.
Click, share, like, all that stuff. That's what I tell on Dave's deal.